Hello, this is Virtualis the Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. I recently played this Vienna Game mainline against a new subscriber from New Zealand who happens to be a frog. Let's go take a look. All right, so obviously I've got the black pieces in this game, and my subscriber, the Nutjob, from New Zealand, who's a frog, had the white pieces. And my subscriber is a fan of the Vienna Game and the Vienna Gambit, just like me. And prior to this game, we actually played a game of the Vienna Game mainline, and they won because I just played some rather silly aggressive moves. And so here I had a chance to regain my dignity against white. So they, of course, led with e4, e5, knight c3, the Vienna. I play knight f6, the folk beer. They attempt the Vienna Gambit. And of course, against the Vienna Gambit, I always play d5, the best move, the main line. And in fact, this is almost kind of like the Achilles heel of the Vienna Game, because in this position, black has some great attacking chances, is objectively slightly better, like about minus 0.2, and the position is definitely not better for white. And we get the usual transformation into the main line, so captures, captures, and in this position, my opponent, white, decided to play the modern variation of the main line. Now, the modern variation is a line of theory, perfectly good. However, it's probably difficult to play, particularly if you're playing the Vienna Game main line as a beginner. I would recommend queen to f3. That's the Paulsen attack. It's got some nice attacking ideas, fairly simple to play, and also a bit of a trap potentially for black if they're not prepared for that move. Now, the reason why the modern variation is probably a little bit suboptimal, particularly if you're not very familiar with the theory, is for black, there's a very simple set of moves that leaves black in a pretty good place, which is knight captures knight, you have to take back, and of course now there are doubled pawns on the c-file. That's not necessarily a problem for white. The idea is to potentially, build a strong center. That's potentially quite good, and maybe there's some chances with the rook to b1. However, in this position, black is definitely better. It's about -1 or so, minus 0.9. White has a little bit of compensation in that they're probably a little bit more developed. They can take the center, but black is good. They don't have that double pawns. So as black, I just simply develop my knight. They develop their knight. Here, apparently that was a bit of a mistake by me, inaccuracy. The bishop to g4, my idea was to potentially pin that knight here. You can see Stockfish thinks that it's better for me to immediately play a d4, basically stopping white from being able to take that center themselves. They now sort of try to kick my bishop, which is also an inaccuracy, and now we're back to a slight advantage to black. I bring the bishop back. They try to, unpin the knight, and here I thought, look, let's just trade that. I thought that was fine, and here I developed the knight. Stockfish, however, saw that given that transformation, we should always, when playing black in the Vienna Game main line, keep an eye for queen to h4 with check. That's often very powerful. However, at the very beginning of the opening, white often has some defenses, and it's often a mistake to bring the queen too early. However, after a few captures, the queen can go there. They can't really block because, of course, that would just get straight up captured. So if I went here, the king is actually forced to move as the best move. And again, it's winning concessions. White are losing the right to castle. I didn't quite see that in this game, and instead I sort of played that other move instead, the knight. Here, that was a very good move, I think, by white, pinning the knight to my king. That pin is quite powerful, and I actually didn't quite see the threat of that pin. General aphorism, try to place pressure on the pin piece. So next move by white should be pushing pawn to d4, and that knight is actually in a lot of trouble. I didn't quite see that actually in this game. I decided to defend the knight with the bishop. That's a, you can see, that's a straight up mistake, almost +3. I should have unpinned the knight with the queen move. However, white didn't see that either and opted to take. And here I did see queen to h4 with check. King now forced out of the way. That's fine. I now decide to long castle with the king stuck on this side. My idea potentially was, depending on what happens, I would push these pawns with the pawn storm on the king side. They now, my opponent, and this is one of the things when playing the Vienna Game main line, it is potentially quite tricky to play with white. This was a mistake. This is a blunder because this queen trade is not good for white. When I saw this, I thought, I can't see any reason why I shouldn't take, because after take, the king is forced to come forward. So that's what I did. That was a good move. King moves forward. And in fact, here, white is actually in some trouble, around some -2.5, -3. Now, in this position, the best move for black, and I actually did see that, is to play bishop to c5 with check, with a discovered attack on the bishop. This will lead to black basically winning a good position and also capturing a pawn. What might that look like? White should block with the pawn. Rook captures, they capture, and then rook captures and chess continues. King, very awkward position. Nice development here. Black is winning and also a bit of material up. So that was the adult move. However, I saw a trap. So previously there was a pin against my king, which I didn't appreciate. And now I saw a potential pin that I could use as a strategy against white. So I played knight to g6. So Stockfish doesn't like it. You can see it calls it a mistake. But what I saw was that I thought my opponent would see this pawn, they would think that it is hanging, and so they will take, and then this potentially would be very powerful. So this was a trap. I set a trap for my opponent, and it was sprung. A bishop captures a pawn on f7. Importantly, that file is now fully open. You can see Stockfish saw that it was a blunder, -7. Rook to f8, pinning now the bishop. That bishop is lost. They have to move the king out of the way, take the bishop, and here that was also another mistake because now there's another check. Very easy to sidestep that. King moves again, and unfortunately, with the bishop and king on the same diagonal, bishop now with a fork of the king and bishop, forcing a trade. Now you can see here Stockfish didn't like it because it thought that this was better, a rook directly giving a check. However, I didn't quite see how I could lead to a mate immediately, and my idea here is simply to force a trade of pieces. Forcing trade of pieces simplifies the game. Simplify the game makes it easier to win. And realistically, if I played that rook move, apparently it's -11. This is still -6. Whether it's -11 or -6, I am completely winning. So simplify, I think, is still a good move. And so when you sort of see Stockfish evaluations, you do need to understand it in context. So bishop captures bishop, takes back, they push, that's fine, check. And now both rooks infiltrated onto the second rank. Absolutely devastating position for white. And here my opponent, a sad little frog, unfortunately decided to resign. Good game, GG. My big takeaway from this game is to be mindful of traps like pins, especially in the middle game. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.